Hi, and welcome to the How to Survive Healthcare podcast. I'm your host, Kayla Thompson-Riviere, seasoned critical care RN turned independent patient advocate. Tune in every week so that you can learn the things about the U.S. healthcare system that no one ever tells you. That way that you can get the most from it and optimize your health outcomes. Now, of course, this podcast is strictly to inform and entertain and should never be taken as a substitute for medical advice. Let's dive right in. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of How to Survive Healthcare. Now, I know that in the beginning of the podcast, I put a general disclaimer that the things I talk about are not to be taken as a substitute for medical advice. That is particularly true on this episode because today I want to talk about some at-home management for upper respiratory infections. It is the end of August, and I don't know about where you're at, but here where I am on the eastern shore of Maryland, we're starting to get some weather changes, which is a welcome relief from the incessant heat that we've been having. However, with the change in weather, almost always follows a stream of upper respiratory or sinus infections. Now, there are times when these things need to be seen by a doctor and treated by a doctor, but a lot of times these things can be managed at home. So today I want to share with you my best tips and tricks for stomping out an upper respiratory issue right in its tracks. I am blessed. I follow all of these tips and tricks. And it's funny, I joke, I get sick 24 hours a year, usually. And when this season change, typically the beginning of October is when it hits me, I'll get an upper respiratory bug, a cold or something. And I follow all of these tips religiously. And typically within about 24 hours, I'm pretty much over it. So here to share that with you today. I've gotten a couple questions about it this week, so I figured there's others who could benefit from the information. I'm going to divide this kind of into two parts. Today, we're going to talk about symptom management, or what to do if you do get this bug. In a following episode, we're going to talk about prevention and the things you can do to try to prevent getting the illness in the first place. Of course, they're not all preventable, but being sick once as opposed to 6 times is ideal. So first thing, fluids, plenty of fluids. Every cell in your body runs on water. You can read different statistics, but the human body is roughly made up of somewhere between 70 to 80% water. And it has a variety of functions, but every cell requires it. So when you are not taking in enough water, they can't function properly. So incredibly important anyways. But anytime that you're facing some sort of an illness or injury and your body is actively trying to fight something off, then it is even more important that we give it the proper care that it needs so that it has everything, its full resources to fight. So water is huge. For the average person, usually around 2 liters a day is enough. However, when you're sick, your body's working extra hard. So think about treating yourself as if you were running a marathon, because you really are on the inside. So I would add probably an additional liter. Again, talk to your doctor though, because those recommendations do not apply to everyone. However, follow your feeling. The thirst mechanism is incredibly weak. We feel hunger very easily, and we can identify hunger pretty quickly, but it's very easy to tune out your thirst drive. So really focus in on that. And I want to share with you a website. My good friend Alex Sharfin does a natural thirst challenge, and it'll help you tune into your body's natural thirst mechanism. And I will link it in the show notes. I'm pretty sure it's getthirstynow.com, but that may not be right. It is a joke about being thirsty, though. And he says that's an intentional double entendre, really to get people's attention. So always check that out. always good to be addressing your hydration status. Anyways, even more important when you are ill, so that all of those cells can do all of their jobs to fight off the invader that has come in your body. Especially if you, and again, if you're having any sort of mucus, whether that be from the nose or if you're coughing it up from your lungs, the more water you drink, the thinner it will be and the easier it's going to be to get it out. So, second thing is rest. As I mentioned, you are on the cellular level, there's a war going on inside you. Your immune system is sending out all of its best soldiers to take out this infective agent. So don't overtask your body with doing other extra things. This is 100% your permission to shut down and rest. Don't try to go to work. I mean, even if you think what you have isn't contagious, you're stressing yourself out, and it probably is contagious, and nobody wants your ick. Okay, just stay home. That is one of my biggest pet peeves. People are like, oh, I'm not running a fever, it's not COVID. Okay, I don't care what it's called, I don't want it. And you're going to be sick longer the more you're trudging your body through extra unnecessary activities. Shut down, get on the couch, go to bed. To piggyback off of this need for rest, consider taking some sort of a light sleep aid to help you with sleeping while you are ill, so that you can get a full good night of sleep and not be woken up constantly by your symptoms. The body actually does the majority of its fighting and repair while you're sleeping. So prioritize it. This is your ticket to rest. Nutrition. So I've talked about nutrition before. Nutrition is a vitally important thing that is very frequently overlooked in our culture. It is always important that you are eating fresh, whole foods, meaning foods that come from the earth, not from a box or a bag. So fruits, vegetables, beans, lean proteins, whole grains, that sort of thing. If it comes out of a box, it's not real food, and your body actually has to work harder to extract any nutrients from processed food because it's also fighting with the preservatives. So this is where, yes, chicken soup actually does help make you feel better as long as it's homemade. I don't know what Campbell's is putting in that can, and I wouldn't suggest that. But again, when our body's fighting a war inside, we don't want to give it anything extra that it has to work against, and we want to make sure it's getting proper fuel, so good complex carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, so that you can make the white cells that you need to fight off this infection rather quickly. The next piece I want to get into is medications. Again, this is a very personal thing. Don't just go take a whole bunch of meds because Kayla said so on the podcast. You need to apply some common sense against your medical conditions. And of course, put a call out to your doctor if you're not sure, or, go visit them. But generally speaking, some medications that tend to be helpful for upper respiratory infections. My number one go-to is Sudafed or phenylephrine. That little red pill, it's fantastic for nasal congestion. It helps to decrease the size of the blood pathways in the nose, so you get less congestion because there's a lot of resources going to that area to fight it. You can take that pill, or they also do make a nasal form. This one particularly, definitely if you have any kind of cardiac conditions, this is not a drug for you. It's also not advised in pregnancy, although you can use some of the nasal stuff. Just, again, check with your doctor. There is Coricidin, makes an alternative to this for those with cardiac conditions. Personally, I've not used it. Can't speak to its efficacy, but for me, just the regular little phenylephrine tabs do wonders for congestion. Now, if you are also dealing with phlegm, a thing that helps well with that is Mucinex or guaifenesin. This actually works to help thin mucus secretions so that it is easier to get them up and out. It's called an expectorant. You'll notice that on the packages, and that's what that means, is it helps to get the crud up and out. You do have to pair that with hydration. If you take Mucinex on its own and you are dehydrated, you're really not going to get any good effects from it. If you are having a cough in association with this, Mucinex makes a product called Mucinex DM, where they add in dextromethorphan. That is a cough suppressant. Be advised, though, it will make you, it can make you pretty loopy, pretty high. Something, even though it's an over-the-counter, I cannot take it and function like at all. So just be advised, because funny story, the first time I took it, I was still working at the grocery store. I was like 18, and somebody suggested it because I had a cough and I didn't know anything. And I actually had to have my boyfriend's mom come pick me up and drive me home because I could not function. It was rough. So they don't quite put that warning on the package. So now you know. If you're having aches, pains, fevers, honestly, some fever is helpful because it's kind of helping the body to fight the infection. But if you're just frankly miserable, there's no award for being miserable. Feel free to take some Tylenol and or Motrin, again, whatever is safe for you with your medical conditions. They are processed out in different ways, though. So Tylenol is processed by the liver, Motrin is processed by the kidneys. So you can actually kind of alternate them every several hours, and you're not going to overload one system. It'll tell you on the bottle to make sure you don't take X amount more than that a day. For Tylenol, it's 4 grams. So if you have the extra strength, those are 500 milligrams. The max you want to take of those is 2 at a time, and every 6 hours, and then that's your daily limit. Motrin is interesting. So they sell Motrin or ibuprofen typically in 200 milligram doses. Some people might have some prescription strength Motrin laying around. It's the exact same stuff. It's just they put more dose in one pill. So those are usually either 600 or 800 milligrams. Now, this can be very rough on the stomach. You never want to take it on an empty stomach. As I mentioned, it's processed out by the kidneys, so not for people with kidney issues. And again, your kidneys have to use it. Make sure you're drinking plenty of water. That's going to be a very common thread with, honestly, a lot of conditions. But I can't quote any studies around this, but I did have a doctor once tell me that if you take more than 600 milligrams of Motrin at a time, so like that's 3 of those little pills. If you take more than that, he quoted that there was a study that showed that you actually don't get any increased benefit, but there is an increased risk of gastric bleeding or ulcers or something like that. So personally, I never take more than 600 milligrams at a time. Sometimes you can be prescribed 800 milligrams. That's just my little fun fact. I think the bottle says don't exceed 400. So that's that on Motrin dosing. Now, name brands for medications are not necessary. The store brands really do, the generics really do work just as well. One thing to avoid, though, is medications from the Dollar Tree. There have been over the years, the Dollar Tree, or I would just say any of those like really discount stores, Family Dollar and all that, they tend to come from China, and there has been issues with the quality of the medications and impurities being added to it. So I would avoid that, but you can stick with like the Walmart brand or the Food Lion brand or whatever grocery store, or, you know, the Rite Aid brand. That's fine. In addition to this, a couple of vitamins that can be very supportive to your immune system fighting is high dose vitamin C and high dose vitamin D. Now, here in America, we do lots of studies on medications and not as nearly as many studies on, quote, alternative remedies like vitamins and plants. So not a lot of not a lot of actual studies done on like the high dose C and D. The dosing recommendations are also all over the place. What I have found works for me, again, talk to your doctor. When I am sick, I do 10,000 units of vitamin D and several vitamin C. I actually read somewhere that you can take as much. Vitamin C is processed out, it's water soluble. So any extra can't really overdose on, you pee it out typically, again, unless you have some sort of a medical condition that limits that, like a kidney issue. I've actually seen some recommendations that you can take as much vitamin C until you start having stomach irritability. If really, really high doses can cause diarrhea. Don't know that I'd necessarily suggest that much, but for most people, 2,000 milligrams is a good place when you're fighting off something. But again, please talk to your doctor. This is not to be taken as medical advice specifically for you. Just some rough guidelines that I found over the years and what works for me. Lastly, substances. Here in America, we like to drink alcohol. That is literally, it is a poison. It is actually, if you look at the chemical structure, it is just a couple steps away from gasoline. I don't think anybody says, oh, I'm sick, let me go guzzle the gas pump. That sounds like a terrible idea, and the booze is really no different. Again, that is something your body has to work very hard to eliminate. So if you are taking that in, it's diverting its resources from fighting this illness to now eliminating out this poison, and you're going to be sicker longer. I know some people swear by a hot toddy. I would not suggest it. This also goes with other recreational substances. Just guys, if you're sick, don't give your body anything extra to do. This is what it means to take care of yourself and rest. So only put in good, don't put in anything bad, and sleep as much as you can. Now, I do have a recipe for kind of my own little blend of immune boosting tea that I like to drink when I'm sick, and I like to make for my friends and family if they're feeling under the weather. So if you're interested in that, www.herdforlife, HEARDforlife.com/immunity tea. That's what it'll be. So look for that. Again, I'll link it in the comments. And that's a nice, you can print that out, stick it up on your fridge, put it in your recipe book, and then when somebody is sick, you'll have it ready for you. So those are my top suggestions for knocking out an upper respiratory infection at home. Again, if it's been more than a couple days and you're not getting better, or if your cough is also turning into shortness of breath, you're experiencing dizziness, or your heart rate is out of control, your fever is greater than 104 despite taking medications, or really if you have concerns, please reach out to your doctor. Please, by no means, I am not sitting here saying any respiratory infection, never call your doctor. No, these are just some things to try at home to get you over your illness faster, get you back to your life. But please never hesitate to reach out to your doctor, or a walk-in, or God forbid, if you're having trouble breathing or chest pains, go to the emergency room. And I hope this is helpful for you. Please check out that herdforlife.com/immunity tea and download that recipe, print it out. And I hope you don't get sick, but let's be honest, we're all getting sick at some point. So when you do, I hope this helps you feel better. So reach out to me if you need anything more. You can find me on my website. You can find me on social. Herd for Life is my handle all across the board. And I'd love to hear from you, see if these things helped you, if you have other things that work for you that I haven't tried. So take care, guys. I'll see you next week.